Hey there, it's Olivia-Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe and welcome to this Friends Choose My TBR reading vlog. I did one of these quite a while ago with Hannah from Ladette M, and today we've got Cara from Wild Book Garden who is choosing the book I'm going to read. So without further ado, let's hear from Cara what she picked for me and why.
Hi Olivia-Savannah, it's Cara from Wild Book Garden, and I'm so excited for you to read my pick. I chose The Boy in the Black Suit by Jason Reynolds, and there's a lot of different reasons. One, he's one of my favorite authors, and I know you have enjoyed things by him as well. I'm pretty sure you've read some things by him, and I also specifically think you would love The Boy in the Black Suit because it's a book that deals a lot with grief in a way that I think was really well done, and just it's a really beautiful and moving story. There's a lot of humor in it, but it also deals with really hard topics. I think the friendships are great. I know that you tend to get on really well with books that deal with grief, that's kind of a buzzword for you, and I feel like you'll really love the main character and like all of the different like friendships and family relationships and everything as well. I just think Jason Reynolds is an amazing author, and I feel like The Boy in the Black Suit is one of his more underhyped titles, so I hope you enjoy it. Thanks so much for asking me to choose one, and I can't wait to hear what you think.
So she picked The Boy in the Black Suit by Jason Reynolds, which makes sense because I believe this is one that she got for me, and it's all about grief, which is one of my main topics and themes that I like to read around. And in this one in particular, you're following our main character whose mother has passed away due to cancer, and he's been wearing this black suit every single day since, and he is working at a funeral home for work experience for school, and he's kind of working through his grief, and the people around him that he meets at this funeral home are kind of helping him on that path, as far as I can understand from the synopsis. Now you can see that there's a bookmark in this because I've actually already read the first 50 pages, which is about the first 2 chapters, and this is a young adult contemporary, by the way. So far, so good. I always feel like when I start a Jason Reynolds book, there's a bit of a disconnect between me and his writing because it always just takes a bit of time to get used to his style and the way that he writes. He writes so much in the way and in the voice of the character that you do have to ease your way into it. You've got to adapt to who this character is, what they're like, and why they speak the way that they speak. But I think that's happened now. I've adapted and I'm used to this writing style and seeing things through this character's eyes. And he is so clearly hurting from the grief of his mother, and he is so clearly feeling a bit lost and alone in that feeling. His secondary school friends can't understand and can't relate, even though some of them try to and some of them don't try to, and his dad is kind of spiraling at the moment. He's got his job, and that's all I know. It's really very much so in the beginning, and it's nice. It's nice, and I'm going to keep reading and see where it takes me. But the grief feelings in this are very strong. We've actually already been to the first funeral that he helps out at, and actually being there for that funeral that he helps out at really struck me emotionally because it was someone who was elderly who passed, and it was kind of reminding me of my nan's funeral, so it did strike home with the grief representation already. So what we're going to do now is we're going to choose the tea from the tea advent calendar, and I know that we need to get number 6 next, which I can see is right here. So let's get this open. 6. Let's be something good. I can already see. It says green with envy. Okay. Mao Feng green tea. What's special about this tea? If you enjoy the benefits of green tea but hate the taste, this is perfect for you. It has a delicate natural flavour of summer air, peaches and apricots, and unlike most murky brown standard green teas, this one turns a clear pale green when infused. Interesting. To avoid scorching the leaves, green tea is best brewed using 80 degrees Celsius water. Grab the kettle just before it boils. That's an interesting hint. Okay, so I'm going to grab it just before it boils, take the heat off, and I'm going to try this tea and see what I think. I do like green tea. It's not my favourite anymore. I used to drink it quite a bit for like health reasons because I knew it was good for you, but now it's not my favourite. I've just got so many other favourites, but I still like it. I have my tea here and it has steeped, so let's give it a try. It certainly smells like your standard green tea, but maybe the taste will be different. That is different. I'm trying to summarize and pick apart how I feel about this tea, but there's something quite unique about it. Okay, that took me quite a while of like tasting the tea to see my final thoughts, but I think I have it. I think what I like about this green tea is that it definitely tastes like a green tea. If you like green tea, you're gonna like this because it has the usual flavors of green tea to it, but it has a slight element of fruitiness to it. There's a slight overtone of peachiness that is adding a different flavor to the standard green tea. So while I don't know necessarily if I would agree and say if you don't like green tea, you're suddenly going to be converted and love this one, I do think if you want green tea but you want to spice it up a little bit, it's not spicy, but if you want to vary it up a bit with a bit of a fruity overtone to it, then this is a good mix. And I do think the peach blends in with the green tea flavor really, really well and doesn't overpower it. So it's just a very unique way of taking on green tea. And maybe you are someone who just doesn't like how heavy the green tea flavor can be sometimes in the like last dregs, in the aftermath, then maybe this could be a good one for you. I really like it. I really like that. Hey, so I'm about to head off to work, but I thought before I went off to work I could tell you about my progress in The Boy in the Black Suit, because I've already read a third of this, so I hope you enjoyed the tea tasting that you just viewed. But my thoughts on this are quite simple really, and I feel a bit bad lately because I've been doing vlogs and my thoughts have been rather straightforward. I feel like in the Do's and Donuts of Love vlog I didn't have that much to say. It was a middle of the road read for me, and this one's kind of chalking up to be quite similar, which is shocking for me because I do tend to usually like Jason Reynolds books. So I'm just going to be getting ready for work as I'm talking. I do tend to enjoy Jason Reynolds books, so I'm very surprised that I'm finding this one to just be an okay read. I was really looking forward to it kind of digging deep into the grief, and I have read another book of his that does look at grief, which was a middle grade, and that was the third book in the Track series. And I thought that did a very good portrayal of grief, and while this one is looking at grief, I do think that it just feels, I wonder if this is published before some of the later books of his that I've read or after, because it just feels a bit flat. It just feels a bit like he hasn't delved into the grief aspect as much as he could. And I was actually surprised, like the plot is surprising of this book. I really thought it was just going to be him in his black suit going to these funerals, and then each funeral would be a different experience for him in his like understanding of his journey with grief, but that would be essentially quite a boring book because it would just be the same thing happening over and over again. And don't worry, that does not happen here. He goes through different things and his life does take unexpected turns that I was just like, I didn't see that coming. I didn't think this book was going to go into that direction. And it does talk a lot about his relationship with his father as well, who's grieving in his own way. Because of that, I do think this book has a bit more to it than I thought. So in that sense, it is more complex because it is dealing with grief from different perspectives, from different people, and sometimes it does feel quite allegorical when certain characters are talking about their own journeys of grief, and I'm like, oh, I can definitely see the message that Jason Reynolds is trying to bring across with what he's saying here. So in some ways I do think this one has more depth to it, and I do think this one is kind of honing in on the grief story, but I think it's the interactions with the characters where I think it's falling a bit flat from his usual. Jason Reynolds usually does such a good job of talking in the style and voice of the characters, and that is what's lacking. I just feel like this character doesn't have much personality to him, and we haven't seen that much about him other than he likes cooking with his mum, and that's all we know about him. So that is kind of bringing it down a little bit for me because I do think we need to know more about his character. And he also has this friend, Chris, and they've been friends for a very long time. And I think whenever he interacts with Chris, it's very clearly Chris is a secondary character just reporting back to our main character on what's happening in the main character's life. Like, Chris doesn't have any personality, Chris doesn't have any storyline of his own, so it is mainly all about the secondary character, and all these other characters around him, they don't exist outside of him. They are only there to depict, to reflect back on his own journey. Even new father figures that he's experiencing or people that he's meeting, it's the love interest, it's all just there to support his own journey. I think that's why this book is feeling quite simplistic. I'm used to Jason Reynolds doing those secondary characters a bit better so that the story feels rounded as a whole, and instead it's just all about him, and it's all about his grief experience, and anything else that's happening in the background, even though there's lots of stuff happening in the background, it's irrelevant unless it comes back to him. So that's how I'm feeling about this book. It's just simplistic in the scope of it. That's what I wanted to get to, and I think we've had a good chat in this session, kind of circling around to what my actual issue is with the book. But that said, I do think it's still a decent read. I'm not having much of a problem with it. I just don't feel like picking it up when I'm not reading it, and as I am a multi-reader, I am reading other books, and I do want to reach for those other books more. So I think this is turning out to be a middle of the road read, and I actually don't think anything the ending does can save it. But we shall see. Maybe it will still get the 4-star rating. I can be a bit of a softie with my thoughts on a book if the ending is good. And I'm only a few more pages, no, not a few more pages, that is a lie. I'm only a few more chapters from the end, because at the end it actually has reading group guide for like children and discussion questions, which is really nice. So you can read this with a reading group, but it does mean there's less of the book left than I thought. So I will finish this. I'm actually going to go and babysit my nephew, so maybe you'll get some cute nephew videos, and then I'll be back with my final thoughts. I'm here to wrap up this vlog because I finished reading The Boy in the Black Suit, and unfortunately I just didn't actually really like this one, and a large part of it does have to do with the ending. So nothing much else happened other than him getting to know this girl that he has found interest in, and their relationship kind of kicks off. And I didn't think it was a bad relationship, I didn't think it was a good relationship, I was just happy going along with the journey. And then the book ends. And it just ends, and I was waiting for those conclusive moments. I was waiting for a heart-to-heart about him and his dad talking about their relationship together and all of the consequences of something particular that happened in this story. But there was no conclusive moment between the two of them, and that is a very big thing that I think this book is missing, because I do think that needed to kind of be not resolved essentially, but talked about and discussed, and they just have no communication on that matter throughout the whole of the book. So that didn't work for me. And then I also think there was a particular moment which had something to do with this girl where I thought we were going to get a conclusion on his thoughts about grief and how he kept going to these funerals, whether he still needed to keep going to them, but that didn't happen either. And so we don't actually have a conclusion to the grief storyline, we don't have a conclusion to the father-son storyline, and we don't even hear conclusions to some of the side characters' things that they're doing. Like there's somebody who's looking out for him who's also interested in this woman at a hospital. We never hear how that goes down, and I wouldn't mind not hearing how that goes down, but the fact that there are so many loose threads in this that are not tied up at the end really unsettled me. And so unfortunately I don't think I like this Jason Reynolds book, and that's really rare because I've read so many of his books, but the last 2 that I've read haven't worked for me particularly. This is by no means the end of my journey with Jason Reynolds. I have another book of his on my shelf. I think I have one more. It's a standalone, and I fully intend to read that, and I fully intend to finish reading the Track series. However, me and Cara has good taste and she likes really good books, and she also typically enjoys books that deal with like identity and discovering yourself, and she does also read and recommend a lot of young adult contemporary. So if you're interested in any of that, I highly recommend checking out Cara's channel. While this wasn't the one for me, I've read many a book on Cara's recommendation, and it's been right on the money, right on the mark. Please let me know in the comment section down below, is there a book by an author that you usually love that just didn't work out for you? Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video, and you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!